they are fearful because they are consistently sold stuff, one, that they don't understand or can't monitor or track. So they have to trust the person that they're buying from.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Morris. With me, Coach Sean Brown. Coach Sean Brown, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You know what I think is funny is I think people might think your name is Coach, like your first name, but I just am used to calling you Coach Sean Brown. Do you like that?
I am torn.
Were you a coach for a long time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody's a coach nowadays.
So you are a coach, and then we swing it over to Nate. Nate, how are you? Who is Coach Nothing?
Good.
He is our ambassador behind the scenes. So now that I've introduced everybody, let's get to it. I said to both you boys, we've got to record right away because I want to get this thing out. The biggest election of our lifetime happened.
Hold on. Before you say that, biggest election happened. The first take that was deleted because our guy didn't put the recording on.
We're not going to name names and look at
We forgot to mention that my short got more views than your short, because I'm the more appealing individual in this tandem. For the record, now you can talk about the election.
It helps that short underneath it said Make-A-Wish, and people thought that something was wrong with you.
There probably is something.
When I see a fella that looks young in the face and has a big bald head, I'm thinking that guy's not long for this earth. That's why people are watching.
I don't look young in the face, by the way. But thank you all for watching and feeling sorry for me and watching my shorts over this guy's shorts.
Why do you think you're on the show? We all feel bad. So what I want to say is this: the election results, whichever way you voted, we know which way most of you did. What came back from just NBC is that all of their shows that are there Monday through Friday that do consistent ratings or have in the past were all down 58% or more. I don't care about the election coverage. What I care about is spots ran, advertising ran in those spots, and they weren't delivered on because TV is sold on the future, radio is sold on the past. So you're predicting what that's going to do, and you're going to say our election coverage is going to do a 4.9. Well, if it under delivers, they owe you spots, right? What we're seeing is television networks their viewership is declining. Shawnee B, where are those people going?
First, on the predictions, how do they predict what's going to happen on TV? Is it kind of like how Kamala's people predicted that she was going to win?
Same people
so they gave her $1 billion?
They're like, for $1 billion, you can do this. But that also goes back.
I think they would have done better if my dead grandparents would have voted this time, but they didn't.
Well, they did 4 times in Illinois. It just didn't happen. Oh, okay. Didn't work out.
Yeah, well, they voted last time, but
so what they do is they're doing it on predictive. When you look back, let's go into the 90s, and you would look at Friends, and you would say this is consistent.
I wasn't asking because I really wanted an answer. I just want to make my funny comment. But we'll get back to my point of where are people going, right? If they're not on that media outlet, where are the viewers going?
So there's 2 ways to look at it. They are, one, going to Twitter or X or YouTube, where they feel their views are being represented better, right? So in the past, you would say NBC, MSNBC, CNN, you might have a little bit of a partisan side, but like a CNN was supposed to be calling it down the middle. In the last 4 years, they've literally taken one side, right? Oh, you could probably say the last 8 years. When you alienate half of the audience one way or another, they're going to go somewhere else. What's interesting to me is they didn't flock from MSNBC to Fox News. They went to the internet. They went to streaming because we're not watching. First of all, no one's watching cable anymore. And if you are, I don't understand why, because if you take the streaming path, it's easier to consume what you want versus having to buy all these other networks that you don't care, the Weather Channel and Home and Garden. If that's not your thing, you're still paying it in your package. When you're doing streaming options, streaming is killing traditional television. But the way I'm looking at it and the way that you look at it is what gets results in a campaign for an advertiser. And you said something before we started that people do things out of fear. Explain what you meant by that.
So I would say that majority of business owners, at least small business owners fail because of fear. And they are fearful because they are consistently sold stuff, one, that they don't understand or can't monitor or track. So they have to trust the person that they're buying from. So I sell you something, you buy it.
They don't necessarily have to trust them. They have to like them.
Like them, yes.
And relationship is probably 80% of most media buys.
Yeah, people buy from people that they like and trust. But the problem is, and we covered this on a previous episode, is the salespeople that are hired in these organizations. And we won't name the organizations, but most of the large organizations they'll hire anybody that has a personality that will show up to work. So they're told to go sell a product and it's supposed to help the business. So they go sell it and they find their own way to sell it, or they're told how to sell it. And they go sell the product to the people, and 6 months goes by, the salesman's off selling somebody else, and the business owner's left wondering, like, okay, I'm giving this guy thousands of dollars a month and my business hasn't changed. So now guess what? Little Johnny or little Jenny comes in and says, I got this pink elephant that's going to go out and get you business. If you just give me $2,000 a month, I'll help your business. So then they try that. And this cycle happens, and every business owner, it's different. But after a few times, people are fearful to give that next salesperson an opportunity to take their money because they've been burned so many times that eventually that fear paralyzes them and they don't move forward anymore. They say, okay, I'm just going to, go to my networking groups, or I'm just going to hope that everybody finds me online, and they don't do anything. And then the business really struggles and then goes under because they have no juice to keep the business going.
But it's also because you don't have a base knowledge of how this works, right? So perfect example is when I was getting out of college, I was hired at a radio station without even knowing what the job was. And when I said, what am I doing here? You're going to sell advertising to who? And that's how everybody gets in the business. They get in and they don't have any clue what they're doing. And their education is, you're going to sell this product, blah, 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 blah. What they don't get is, a client doesn't understand, is the person selling you airtime or billboards or whatever, they're regurgitating what somebody else told them. They never understand how this really works in the back end because no one does any investigating or no one studies, and there's nowhere to kind of learn this. Like now I think colleges actually teach media buying. Do you know what they teach? What media buyers already do, and they set the standard for how they do it.
You know how many people I've talked to from they have marketing degrees that have no clue how this really works? And like you said, you just mentioned it, knowledge. If a business owner chooses not to understand it or learn it enough to make an educated decision on whether to move forward or not, then it's got to be on you, the business owner. Like, you can't just take everything that everybody says. You have to be able to understand exactly what is supposed to happen if you purchase X, what should happen, so that you can track it. Because there's not a magic pill. I mean, not everybody that does every type of strategy works every time. So you got to be able to pull the plug and be able to make those adjustments, but you have to be able to do it based off of data, not feelings. And like you said, when you got into the industry, they taught you how to sell. I got into the mortgage industry right out of college. I was going to go play overseas professional basketball, and a friend of mine said he was making a bunch of money selling mortgages. I had no clue what a mortgage was. I didn't know how to tie a tie, but they hired me. I tell a story all the time. One of my first loans I did for a person, he lived in Westerville. I still know the guy's name. I tried to find him many years later to make it right. But I did a loan, worked for a company that had high interest rates, high fees, and his origination fee was $15,000 on a $150,000 loan. It was 10 points. And I said, he wanted to come in and talk about it. And being a salesperson, I was like, told my boss, I'm like, what do I say? Like, I mean, we're charging him $15,000 to give him a 7% interest rate. And this guy worked for a bank, and he's coming in to ask me questions. I said, I don't know what to say. Like, I didn't own a house. I didn't know what to do. And they said, well, this is what you tell him when he comes in. I'm like, all right. So he came in, he says, hey, Sean, what's this $15,000 origination fee? Still to this day, 30 years later. It's a prepaid finance charge you pay throughout the term of the loan, but we're going to show it to you up front as a possible tax benefit. And the guy's like, okay.
I would sign up on that. That was good.
He signed. I still remember it to this day. That was my pitch. I'm like, this guy's signing a loan on his house, and I have no clue. I have no financial responsibilities. I've never bought a house. But these salespeople that are out selling these business owners and selling people, their job is to sell. So as a business owner, you have to know, and that's why we're doing this podcast,
right.
is to really explain to people how this stuff works so they can make good decisions.
I think also part of this is therapy from all the conversations we have with people. And sometimes I feel like we're repeating ourselves. And I realize this because we're doing this so many times. But I had a conversation with somebody that's been in the guy who influenced me to go out on my own and not sell for a station or a group. And what was so funny is we're having this conversation and he's dead quiet because he's heard something he's never heard. Because he said, tell me what you do and how would you put that in a box? I always say to somebody, if you were stuck in an elevator and you only had a few floors to go, what would you tell that person in an elevator before they left what you did or who you are?
That's why it's called the elevator pitch.
I know, but I'm saying,
I don't think you made that up, by the way.
no, I didn't make that up. I never said that.
Okay.
Nate trademarked that for me. What I mean is if you were walking down a hallway and we were going to get separated at the end of this, we may never talk again. Could I leave something with you that says, I remember that guy for this? I might forget my name, but you won't forget that lesson. And so I'm going through this and I realize I'm starting to get more and more, not heated, but more like aggressive about what I'm saying, because I truly believe this. My job is to take care of your process to sell your product. Other people are selling you a product without understanding your process. If what I do to make your process in marketing easy for you, and we do all the back end for it, you're going to win if you just bring in revenue, and that's your product. You're selling your product. That is the job. And the thing that people at stations, you can't sell somebody HVAC and be an expert, a law firm, a fence company, a roofer. You can't have all that knowledge when you work for, you can have that knowledge, but they're lazy and they don't do it. They never bother to ask what makes you successful. But in the back of every campaign or every pitch, we will do a full ROI on your campaign. How can you do that if you don't even know what makes me money? See what I mean? So someone will say,
you said that in the previous episode. They just put it on the paper just to sound good.
I know, but my point being is that it's still being done every single day. And somebody did that to a client, and I'm in the room, and I said, how do you guarantee an ROI? Because our listeners, 91% only listen to us and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but how does that sell X? And they can't answer. They just rely on their audience. And here's the beauty of their audience. Let's just take the Columbus market alone. There's a thing called the PPM, Personal People Meter. There are less than 1,000 of those out there. And if you're in the minority category, they weigh it. Like when you're taking a test and it's like whoever the best person is on this test will weigh it. So
it's called the curve.
Yeah. So on that curve, let's say the B plus was the highest and you got a 69. Well, guess what? You got yourself a C plus because somebody else was too dumb to figure it out. That people meter is measuring 2.4 million people in the surrounding area. 1.2 million live in just Columbus in the 7 metros.
Is this a thing that your family have? That
They had. So it's like a pager, and nobody under the age of 34 will know what a pager is, but you have to have this thing, and you have to be within 6 feet of a radio. And it gathers everything you're listening to for 15 minutes. You walk away at 14 minutes and 58 seconds, all that data gets dumped. So it's an incorrect system.
Is this how you became a top-rated radio show?
Oh, actually, that is the funniest thing. So my parents both had one of these, and when I was doing radio shows back before COVID, they would listen to every single show. So the ratings on Sunday mornings were huge for just this day part because they're waiting. My mom and my dad listening to this because they had meters. And I remember the program director is no longer there anymore. He said, man, you're killing it. You're doing great. You're doing better numbers than our overnights. And I thought, how's this possible? Because I'm talking about lawn and garden things and a law show. And my parents are like, so we've been carrying this around for 6 months. And I thought, I'm not going to tell anybody that, but I'm glad we did it now.
So if you want your podcast or show to be successful,
have my parents listen.
Have your parents go get one of those monitors.
Yeah. But it goes to what we're saying is that the most important part, and I would like you to cover this piece, is that we always talk about like hope is not a strategy. You hear that a lot of times. I hope this works. When someone says, I hope this works, I have to get away from it because that means you're guessing. If I don't know and you don't know, we shouldn't do it. Right. But when it comes to actually seeing data to put this all together, if you can find who you're looking for and drive them, that's what you're trying to do instead of run all these ads and hope people run into them. So can you kind of address what a data-driven campaign looks like?
Well, how long have we been on this show, Nate?
It feels like 4 hours.
We've finally got around to the initial question of where do people go if they're not watching traditional news.
Well, it's not on the board over there, so I don't have to pay attention to anything.
No, but we're finally getting there. But I mean, like you said, people are going to streaming where it's data driven and it's audience specific in how you target the individuals that you're trying to market to. So data driven type of results or marketing is really geared towards actual people that have intent to buy your services. And media companies and most traditional marketing companies don't do it that way. They run ads in many different places to try to capture. It's like throwing a large net over a pond, hoping you're catching a specific fish. When you do things based off of data through a data provider or someone that's doing real-time type search intent, you're able to capture search behaviors of individuals that are looking for specific things to identify them and say, like, look, these people have a high intent to buy a roof or a water heater or whatever that is. They're looking and doing research. And then those are the people that you want to target. And when you target them directly, you have a higher probability of converting somebody or earning their business and establishing your brand with that person than they're just trying to cover everybody. So, I mean, data is very important when trying to build a target audience and trying to build a persona of people that may need your services. And that's something that, obviously we do this in a very unique way, but traditional marketing is
we're kind of making it sound like way too technical. For someone that wants to do this, it's not intimidating. It is, we can show you that. But the difference is, as Sean's saying, if you're buying, let's say a TV schedule or a radio schedule or whatever, you don't know who's listening because the data you're seeing is not up to the second, right? So it's not going to be able to show you how many people are watching, what their age is, all that, because it's got to complete. If you're data driven, it just means as people are searching for these products or these terms, that's what you want to be able to capture. Because by the time that they're doing this is kind of like you're jumping in a swimming pool and you're starting to take off, and then somebody's trying to fill the pool behind you. It's not like that. If you can reach them before they've made their decision, which is why Sean is saying intent, they have the intent to at least research this deeply and then from there convert to a client. That's what every media piece is missing. And I'm going to tell you this, it's been missing it since the dawn of media because there is no way to predict behavior without real-time data on the back. Fair to say?
Yes.
So I could sell you something based on this is what this listenership does, blah, 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 blah. Nowhere in there can I say, and out of these 400,000 listeners to this station, 30 of them will become your client. Because all we're doing is we're putting ads out there without knowing if any of them care about what your product is. It changes the entire game. And this is why I get so excited. We talk all day long about this stuff. The data is more valuable than anything else you can do. When you use the data and you put your schedules, streaming, radio, billboard, whatever it is, when you pair them, you are giving yourself an optimal chance to win. Anybody else is just selling you a solution without an answer because they didn't ask the question in the first place of how can I make you successful? Is that the approach that you take? That you think of what the client needs above all else?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, they're outside of running a very expensive Google ad, which you're waiting for that person to click on your ad and you're competing with every other business in town. It's the most expensive way to try to get a lead. That's a very direct, correlation between click, conversation, and conversion. But you might be spending $200 every time somebody clicks the ad. And it might be somebody clicked on it on accident and you're paying that money. When you're talking about finding the best way for a small business owner to get in front of the right audience, the only way to really do that is to find people that have behaviors and intent signals that are relative to what you're trying to sell them. If I'm searching for weight loss stuff and Botox and, gastro bypass surgery and all these things that I'm looking around and doing research on, it would be great for me to be served an Ozempic ad saying that, hey, this can help you lose weight. Wow. I was already looking for that.
Let's take it to the next step, because last night, I had never seen the X-Files, and Mia was with me, my daughter, and we were just kind of talking about it. I said, well, we'll just start watching it. Every ad in there started with an Ozempic ad or the knockoff kind. Okay. I'm never going to I know what you're going to say, asshole, before you even say it, because I see you staring and you want to get your joke out.
You need to lose some weight.
And you need to get a hat. But what I'm saying is,
I'm getting some hats.
Well,
by the way,
are you? Oh, that's right.
We're going to have our own.
That's for later.
Yeah.
We'll make a big announcement. I feel like we just did what Trump does. We've got a secret and we'll tell you later. And then we'll do this. What I was going to say is, I actually don't remember what I was saying. What was I saying before you interrupted me? Oh, it was Ozempic. So, but what was funny is all those ads it was all female related ads after that. Go ahead.
Don't even.
Go ahead.
If you're getting served female ads.
Okay, but I live alone other than when Mia is there. Meaning they're running ads the wrong way because the algorithm somehow has told them something of all these products that I would never buy. Now, the funny part is when I'm on YouTube, every third ad I get is in Spanish.
You don't even speak Spanish.
I don't speak Spanish, but my mom is from Puerto Rico. But that's what's weird is that every third ad, and it's always for Tide or some kind of dish soap or toothpaste or whatever, is in Spanish. So again, if you're not hitting the right target,
well,
go ahead.
Exactly, because we just talked about this before we started the show. I looked at an ad for firefighter foam that is affecting firefighters with all these diseases. And I've seen 62 ads since then that people are serving to me. And I'm not a firefighter and I didn't have any of those conditions and I wasn't affected by the foam.
That's a great point. So is that efficient use of the marketing or are they doing it wrong?
They're doing it the only way they know how to do it.
Right. Because they don't have all
the data
correct. So they're over serving you when you're not really the person they're looking for. So you
accidentally clicked on a thing on Facebook.
Right. But you've got to be able to remove people from that when you see, first of all, if it's a do not call list or do not contact, whatever. But also they should know. And a lot of these companies that sell data specific information, they don't, what do I want to say, weed through or comb through that stuff. And they'll say, look, we delivered to this one guy who's looking for it 65 times. What did it cost? For that guy, it cost $275. And you go, well, that's not that much. It's a waste of time, though. So how many other people did you waste hundreds or thousands of dollars on because you didn't hit the right target? And Absolutely. That's the biggest problem is even when you have the data, if it's the wrong data, if it's old data, it's worthless. You know what I mean? It's no different than buying a TV schedule and hoping that it works.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's where people have to be aware of what their metrics are doing to know that they're moving in the right direction. So if they need to pull the plug, they pull it quick enough, but give it enough time to work through. You know what I mean? And that's something that we see a lot of times where it goes both ways. And if I had $1 for every time a business owner would call me and say, look, Sean, I was paying this guy $1,000 a month and I canceled it because I never can get a hold of him and I don't know if his stuff works or not. So I canceled it. And then I go look at metrics and I'm like, well, your metrics were on the way up. Like whatever they were doing was working. Yeah, but I didn't know. So I just canceled it. That's a dangerous place to be.
Right.
Like you were getting momentum. It was going in the right direction, but you didn't understand what to look at. So you canceled it. Now you've lost momentum and you cancel something that was working. Same thing that people are like, hey, I really like my rep. You know what I mean? She's awesome. You know, she takes me to lunch and I don't mind paying her $1,000 a month. I'm like, but whatever she's doing is your business is tanking. Look at these metrics. You're not getting any new business owners, any new customers. And that's a dangerous place to be. You're paying the person just because you like them. And we see that a lot. So either way is dangerous.
The corporate side, you're not paying them directly. You're paying that station group.
Yeah, they're just getting a little piece of it.
Right. So if they're getting paid between, say, 4 and 8%, or let's say 4 and 10%, they're going to fight like hell because if you're getting them $4,000 to $10,000 a month, they've got to do that 10 and 20 times, right? Because at most, you might handle 20 accounts. And at that point, you're just putting orders in, making sure things are running, whatever. But you're constantly looking for new. Majority of people will deal with 8 to 10 clients a month. That's a lot of free time. And that, when you're selling media of any sort, it is the greatest job if you want to take naps in the middle of the day, if you want to go on vacations, if you want to screw off all day, because you only have to close one thing a week and you look like a rock star, depending on how much it is, right? As long as there's some semblance of you're making an effort. Over time, they've reduced the commission so much. I mean, it's got to be down 2/3 of what it was when I first got in. I mean, I'm not doing it now, but when I first started in 98, 99, when you look at it, those people aren't hungry to make money for other people. It is, I'm going to make money for myself. You have to be for the group, right? So when we're doing stuff, there's times we've taken jobs on or clients on that are complete pains in the ass because we want to fix it. Now, we end up getting rid of them because it's a lot more work but when we leave them in a better spot, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but part of why we do this show is to educate people on how to know if things are working or not working for you. And, educating people as much as possible because the not knowing is going to put people in a much worse position than taking a little bit of time to understand how some of this stuff works.
To summarize for this week, because we've run out of time because you want to make all kinds of Ozempic jokes.
No, you're the one that brought up the fact that you're being given ads because you're a female that's overweight.
Well, you're blind and you're bald. And more people would rather spend time with me than Coach Sean Brown. And I don't know those
short
people.
Views would say differently.
You put out one. You put out one and you got 700 views to it. And I guarantee no one's
1,200 views in a day.
Is that right? 1,200?
In a day.
What were mine?
500. And it's been going on for 4 days.
What were mine? Come on.
Combined, you did 3. I already did 1.
I did 2.
You did 3.
Between like 6 and 800.
Oh,
there you go.
Half of what I did in one day. Good job. Congratulations.
That's going to be it for this week. We'll see you next week.